All right, welcome. I'm Stefan. So, Thailand versus the Philippines. Which one is better for living and traveling in 2025? Well, there are pros and cons to both, so let's talk about it. Nature, culture, language, cost of living, food, infrastructure, healthcare, safety, visas. So if you want to know which one is best for you, just stick around until the end. I'll tell you things to consider between both of these. But first, let's get into each topic in detail. Let's go. Okay, let's talk about nature. I think this is a topic that many people think about when they think about these two countries. And let's start with the beaches. And I think, first of all, the Philippines, let's be honest, is world class. Has some of the best beaches in the entire world, not just Southeast Asia, but the entire world. In terms of white sand beaches, turquoise waters, biodiversity in the water, amazing diving, super good activities, surfing, they have everything for that paradise island feeling. And it's, hard to top. Thailand has great beaches, good beaches too. The water can be a little bit more murky than it usually is in the Philippines. Maybe it has something to do with it being all the way out in the Pacific or something in the Philippines and a lot more untouched nature than Thailand has. Thailand is getting a little bit more crowded for a reason, I guess. It's very popular. It is super nice, but keep that in mind. It is a little bit more murky and not the same feeling as some of these pristine paradise-like beaches you'll find in the Philippines sometimes. Both of these countries, Thailand and the Philippines, have some amazing mountain regions where you can go on a super good road trip, have a great adventure, go to some waterfalls, experience some cooler climate, and get those crazy views. They both have it. Philippines and Thailand, I think this is a tie. No pun intended. So both of these countries are incredibly diverse in terms of nature, landscapes, One morning you could be in the mountains, and then in the evening you could be at a paradise beach. So and they have these bustling cities. I'm thinking about Bangkok compared to maybe Manila or Cebu, even Davao to a lesser extent. They have everything. So whatever you're looking for, you can find that in both of these countries. But what I think makes the Philippines take this point is that they have these over 7,000 islands, of which not all of them are even populated, and you can find these pristine paradise environments that are absolutely incredible. You'll have to put in some effort to get there, and you'll have to get a boat to get to these more secluded places, but if you're into that sort of stuff, you should consider the Philippines. Obviously, travel to both of these countries first, but Philippines has that extra world-class beaches. Let's talk about the culture. And Thailand is known for the land of smiles for a reason. And they're just very warm and welcoming. But the Philippines has some of the most kind people I've ever met on this planet as well. You can't go wrong with either of these countries for that. The atmosphere is fantastic. So the obvious difference is that Thailand is Buddhist majority, and the Philippines is Christian, Catholic. And obviously that comes from the Spanish in terms of the Philippines, and this is entirely personal preference. Do you like Buddhist culture or Christian culture? Some of the people that come from a Christian majority country, like myself, we have all these institutions for marriage, baptism, funerals, and everything in the churches. But where I come from, in the Nordics, Sweden, almost no one that I know of actually believes in God. So when it gets a little bit preachy in the Philippines and they act like they really do believe in God, it can be a little bit overwhelming for me. But at the same time, I really like the culture of Buddhism. It is not as preachy, and it's more like living in accordance to some really good teachings from the Buddha, and it just reflects in the culture what type of beliefs you'll find in Buddhism. And I am, of course, a little bit biased on this one because I do teach meditation, Buddhism, traditional style, Vipassana, and I really like Thailand here. So to sum up, if you're from a Christian background, you'll feel very at home in the Philippines because they are very Christian, devout Christians. And in Thailand, if you're more leaning toward the, spiritual Buddhist kind of lifestyle, then that'll be exactly what you need. So what about the language? When you live somewhere or want to travel around somewhere, it's kind of important, if you're from the West and you're an English speaker, that they have decent English. Now, I actually speak a bit of Tagalog and also a bit of Thai. So, kamusta ka? Nagsasalita ka ba ng Tagalog? Or, Sawadee krap,พูดภาษาไทยได้ไหมครับ? But yeah, in terms of English, the Philippines is better. You'll find English in the touristy areas of Thailand. It'll be not so good, but good enough to get by. And in the countryside, you'll rarely find English speakers in Thailand. And it's going to be very difficult for you to get around if you don't know any Thai. And in the Philippines, most people do speak English, even if it's like a second language to them. They do speak English, so you'll get by much easier. Sometimes they don't speak so well, and they even have a term called nosebleed that they say if they are struggling to come up with the English words, because they do have local languages. And it's not just Tagalog, like they speak in Manila and most of the Luzon region. They have local languages like Bisaya, and then other regions where they speak other languages. It's like 100 different ones. So there are regions in the Philippines where if you put them together, they won't understand each other if it's from the opposite side of the Philippines, etc. Yeah, but they do speak quite good English in the Philippines, and that's an advantage there. Right, this topic, cost of living, probably something you all want to know about. But let's consider the cheapest areas in both these countries. I would say the Philippines wins out. You can get by cheaper if you're in a rural area in the Philippines and you're kind of living cheaply and frugally. I think the Philippines, it's possible to live the cheapest here. Thailand is getting more and more expensive, especially around the touristy areas, and especially if you are after these nice beaches and the island life and things like that. The touristy areas are getting very expensive. Of course, the same is true for Boracay, Siargao, or, places like that. Palawan in the Philippines. But you can still find much cheaper places there. At the same time, the countryside in Thailand can be very cheap as well. Yeah. So comparing the bigger cities, like I live in Bangkok, I've spent a lot of time in Manila, and yeah, you can get by on about the same budget. You can get by cheaply, or you can raise your budget and get these more quality of life things available to you. I think Thailand, in this case, wins out just a little bit. You will get more value for money in Thailand. Like if you increase your budget slightly in Manila and in Thailand, I think you'll get a little bit more for your money in Thailand. But you can also have a very good lifestyle in Manila for the same type of money. So yeah. And in terms of accommodations, I would just say that the condos in Bangkok are just on another level by world standards. It's just so crazy the amount of amenities you'll get in Thailand and the amount of convenience you will have for the price. It's quite unmatched. Now you can get a very nice condo or a place to live in the Philippines and in Manila as well for about the same money, but it's not quite to the level that you will get in, for instance, Bangkok. Let's talk about food. So, the Philippines has good food. Things like adobo, sisig, sinigang, lechon, kare-kare, pancit, lumpia, various fried seafood. Filipino food is quite oily and not always super healthy. So they have lots of processed food, but it is very good. I like the cuisine. And now, of course, Thailand is just world renowned for their intense flavors and their spicy food and, very, very nice. Things like pad kapao or pad thai, all of the different curries, fried rice, noodle soups, crispy pork, som tam, khao man gai, and cow soy, Thai omelets, Isan sausages, and the list goes on. So maybe for most people, Thailand would be the better choice in terms of food, but that's also, like the culture, entirely personal preference. And then we have healthcare. Especially if you're a retiree, you might want to consider this one, but also for all travelers or people who want to live here, digital nomads, expats, it is important to consider. So let's talk about healthcare. Well, Thailand, again, world renowned for this one. They have a lot of medical tourism, and the level of English, the level of skill of the doctors and in the healthcare system is just really high in general. And especially in terms of emergency services, it is just way better than you can get in the West. For your money, the amount of healthcare and the level of quality you get for your money is just unmatched. The Philippines also has decent healthcare, especially in the major cities, but if you're out on the islands, you might be out of luck. And, the skill and the proficiency is going to drop, and even the availability of a hospital, it might be very far away. So I guess the geography kind of works against the Philippines in this point. So in terms of healthcare, I would actually recommend Thailand. But in the major cities in the Philippines, you can get decent healthcare. You can get by. It'll be a bit more expensive than Thailand and not quite as high quality. But, Filipino nurses especially are just world renowned. They come to the West and they become OFWs, overseas Filipino workers, and they work in healthcare, and they're just very, very good at what they do. But I would say in terms of value, price, quality, weighed together, I would say this one goes to Thailand. Let's talk about the infrastructure in these countries. Well, they both have quite similar transport. In the Philippines, you'll find the trike and the jeepney, and the equivalents in Thailand, you'll find the tuk-tuk and the song tao. So they're very similar there. And also in terms of boats, in the Philippines we have the bangka, and in Thailand we have the longtail. So far, very equal. The roads in terms of countryside can be a lot of gravel roads and kind of underdeveloped, absolutely. But I would say actually Thailand has a little bit more robust of a road system than the Philippines does. And they also have a lot better trains. And again, this is geography. So in Thailand, they have been able to build a lot of nice infrastructure and roads and railways, whereas in the Philippines, obviously it's an island nation, so they becomes more limited. And in the Philippines, they have a system they call ro-ro, which is, ferries between islands, where you just put your vehicle on a ferry, roll on, roll off, it's called. So yeah, you can still get around in your own vehicle, but it'll be a little bit more cumbersome in my experience. But let's be real, taking boats between the islands in the Philippines is beautiful and a wonderful way of traveling. It's just a bit less convenient than it is in Thailand. So yeah, if you want to get around in the Philippines, you should probably have your own vehicle, a motorbike or a car. And in Thailand, you could do the same, but you can easily get away with not having your own vehicle. Just a short note on internet connection speeds. I would say Thailand is world class and Philippines is not as good. And in the Philippines, I also experienced a lot more brownouts in terms of electricity, and in Thailand, things are more stable. So I guess convenience is better in Thailand. Let's talk about safety. So I've mentioned this in previous videos, but Thailand is just immensely safe. I've never, actually in Southeast Asia, I've never really felt threatened, but I've heard a lot of horror stories, people getting kidnapped or violence and things in the Philippines, whereas I've heard much less of that in Thailand. And also we have these daily examples of people just leaving the keys in the ignition in their motorbikes and just put their helmets on the steering on the motorbike, and no one takes it and everything's just super safe. Now I've heard people speak up against my point when I say that. Maybe don't leave your smartphone and laptop in the cafe. You usually can in Thailand. But, if you're in a touristy area, maybe there are some less Buddhist kind of people there that you should be mindful of, pun intended this time. But yeah, I would say Thailand is slightly safer than the Philippines, although I've definitely never had a problem in the Philippines myself. I think maybe both of these countries have quite a large, poor population, which, in human nature breeds desperation, of course, which feeds into more crime. Uh, I think there's more petty theft and stuff in the Philippines. No offense here, just, a feeling I have. Feel free to comment on that down below. Okay, let's talk about visas. That's a very important point as well if you want to choose a place to live, especially, but also for tourism, digital nomads, expats. So first off, Philippines, amazing. You can stay in the Philippines on a, visitor or tourist visa for up to 3 years. Now you do have to pay visa fees, and I think you can pay like per month or half a year or something like that, and just keep renewing up until 3 years in the country without leaving. And then when you've reached the 3 year limit, you have to leave, and then you can come back the next day if you want and have another 3 years. So staying in the Philippines is quite easy. Now, I'm not married, but I've heard from people who are married and they have some sort of a partner visa, marriage visa. It is quite easy in the Philippines to stay on that one and to get it renewed. Whereas in Thailand, I would say it's more of a hassle. Now, in Thailand, in terms of tourist visa or just arrival visa, visa exemption, as they call it, you now get 60 days each time you enter Thailand. But if you put that into a system and you do it over and over and over again, they might start to question that when they see it in your passport. They're like, hey, you're not utilizing the visa as it's intended. You're staying here long term on a tourist visa, and they might crack down on that and start to ask you questions. So in Thailand, I think you would have to get a proper visa if you want to stay long term. If you're an expat, digital nomad, retiree. For retirees, it's pretty straightforward in Thailand as well. You just have to show proof of funds, basically, and you need to show in a bank account how much money you have each time you apply for renewal of your retirement visa. And it's not a huge sum of money, but yeah, it's always something. A hurdle, some bureaucracy to get over. I've heard the retirement visa is easier in the Philippines, that one too. Now, quite recently, they've introduced something called the DTV, or the Destination Thailand Visa, where you can apply for a visa if you're a remote worker. You just have to show. So this is the perfect digital nomad visa. You can just show proof of income, proof of funds, and then, what you're doing. And or you can show that you're participating in soft power skills, they call it in Thailand. So their ability, soft power, the ability of a nation to influence other people in other countries based on their own culture. So if you go to like a Thai culinary cooking class, you can have a DTV visa for that if it's long enough. It should be 6 months, I believe. And same goes for Muay Thai, for example. If you want to practice Muay Thai and live in Thailand while you're doing it, if you have at least 6 months of a Muay Thai course on paper, you can also show that and get a DTV visa. But keep in mind that you always have to have at least, I think, 500,000 baht equivalent of money in a bank account. So you have to provide a bank statement that says that you have that when you apply for the visa. And then in Thailand, there's always that 90-day reporting, even if you're on a long-term visa. So, on average, I would say it's easier to handle the visa situation in the Philippines, actually, if you're staying long-term. So the point goes to the Philippines here. But Thailand is getting better. However, a point to know about Thailand is if you've stayed there for a long time, you'll know they kind of change the rules quite often. So you'll have to keep updated on that and be fine with the kind of unsure nature of the visa situation in Thailand. If you're on a visa, they might, change it in the future, so you're never quite sure. All right, I promised I'd tell you in the conclusion some points to think about when you're choosing one of these countries. And I would say in Thailand, if you're after the infrastructure, the convenience, the value for money, a comfortable living in a very nice climate with great nature, diversity, and an interesting culture, great food, pick Thailand. If you're the more adventurous person and you don't mind some developing areas and you want to find some pristine nature, then the beaches and the marine life and all of that in the Philippines is unmatched in the entire world. It's actually so top-notch, so amazing, and your adventure will be fantastic. The lifestyle you'll have here is, a little bit more challenging in terms of convenience. You'll have to put in some more work if you want to travel around and have a nice lifestyle. But yeah, you can definitely do it. But it'll be on the more adventurous side. Yeah, it's kind of raw, which can be a very good thing. And, the English proficiency, you should definitely go to the Philippines because they have much better English than the Thai in general. So yeah, the Philippines is much more of a developing country than Thailand is up until this point, and it's developing rapidly. Well, so is Thailand, but it's a bit further along. And the tourism scene is, picking up in the Philippines, but it is a little bit more fresh than in Thailand. Thailand has had many, many, many decades of very popular tourism, whereas the Philippines, has had tourism for many decades, but it's really, really picking up since maybe the 90s. So yeah, it's a bit more new. And if you want that, which is, a very interesting point for people like me, people who like to explore, yeah, the Philippines is great for that. And at the same time, if you value more of an expat community that's more, established, then yeah, Thailand might be for you. So overall, I would say these countries have more in common than they have differences, and they're both fantastic options. Now, if you're an expat, a digital nomad, a traveler, a retiree, these are all fantastic options. So yeah. Now, was there something I have missed? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Please let me know down in the comments below the like button, which I would like you to press, if you don't mind. It really helps me out. And also subscribe if you're not yet subscribed, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day.